Welcome to Morning Devotion with Ken Gurley. Devotions designed to inspire you on your daily walk with God. Here's your host, Ken Gurley.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I get mesmerized here on Morning Devotion when I saw waiting for the intro to start, and I see all of you guys joining in. You just make my day. Yeah, we ought to all get together somewhere and have a cup of coffee in the morning. Well, wait a minute. That'd be a lot of tables. So maybe you just bring your coffee to Morning Devotion. And I have leftovers cup of coffee from yesterday there. I'll try not to drink it. It looks awfully cold, awfully old. It's good to see. It's good to see you this Morning Devotion. What a great subject today. We've been dealing with some amazing subjects. This is a good one. Not a hill to die on. And I have somewhat to say about that. I think you'll be blessed by this. Have you ever been asked that question or asked yourself that question? Phil or Roy, Randy, have you ever asked yourself this question? Is this a hill worth dying on? It's an interesting question. It's been on my mind of late. Prompted me to go on a safari of sorts until I found several things that I wanted. A lecture from the late Charles Spurgeon, a prayer that was written, a piece of prose that was written, just reminded me of so many things. So my heart's full, got to stay on track today and make good use of your time. Susan, Kathleen, Gail, Zane, Everett, thank you. A word before we dive in. A lot of the mandates are beginning to collapse, so maybe we can say this thing's winding up. It's been one of our prayer requests during the 21 days that we're moving on. Still areas of concern, still a lot of serious issues. I see them each day after the devotion is over, what you leave, the prayers. But maybe we're moving into a different phase. JamesL.Bailey is pulling together the pieces on the Holy Land trip. Right now, he's filling up the coaches that we're using in Israel. Join us. His email address is in the description. Join us. The idea of fighting on hills. Is this a hill worth dying on? Many battles in the Old Testament involved hills, so much so that the enemy said that Israel's God was the God of the mountains. Study military history, and you're going to find the battle for the highlands, the mountains, Little Round Top, Gettysburg, Hamburger Hill, Vietnam, Pork Chop Hill in the Korean War. In other words, it's the quest for the high territory and the high ground and the best strategic position. That battles were fought from the top of mountains. So it's not unusual to see a struggle for the highlands, a struggle for the mountaintops, but outside of the military realm and into daily life, we see it too, folks. Yeah, we fight for the big things. There's one analogy. Mountain represents sort of the big rocks. You remember that? A large jar filled with rocks, then smaller rocks, then pebbles, and then sand, and finally filled to the water. And the lesson of the story is, if you want to get the big rocks in, you got to put them in first before you get everything else. Yeah, it's a battle for the highlands. It's a battle for the high positions in our lives. The big rocks, the things that matter, that really matter. And those are the hills that truly are worth dying on. For your family, for your principles, your belief, your loved ones, your friends, your values, your conviction. Those are hills worth dying on. But there's some hills not worth dying on. Yeah. Those hills worth dying on are like when Colonel Travis, he drew the line in the sand with a sword at the Alamo. And you're asked to step over the line to fight for freedom. We applaud that courage. We applaud those who give the last full measure of devotion. We thank those who serve the cause of freedom. As Patrick Henry once said, we honor those who say, give me liberty or give me death. Yes. But there's a lot of hills out there. Helen, Dennis, Debbie. There's a lot of hills out there that are simply not worth dying on. And that's why the expression is usually used in the negative sense. That's a hill not worth dying on, or not a hill to die on. And this is where we get the better part of valor. That word discretion. It means that sometimes it's better to avoid a dangerous or unpleasant situation. Sometimes it's the most sensible thing to do in life to say, that's not a hill that I choose to die on. Can I get a witness out there? Does anybody relate to that? I think it's a good word. So can I give you 4 hills not worth dying on? You ready? Here we go. Chatter. Yeah, that's a good word, chatter. So much chatter. The Bible says there's a multitude of voices in the land. Took me a while, but early this morning I finally found a lecture that Charles Spurgeon gave to his ministry students. It was a lesson founded on his many years of experience in the ministry and calling for people, caring for people, leading churches, institutions. It's called The Blind Eye and the Deaf Ear. Spurgeon was fond of saying this, that if you're going to be in leadership, if you're going to help people, if you're going to be in ministry, you got to have one blind eye. You have one deaf ear. You got to choose what to see and what not to see. You've got to choose what to hear and what not to hear. Having watched people so long in leadership, and I can say that's really the case. Anytime you try to do a good work, can I hear an anytime? Here we go, Kurt, Deborah, anytime you try to do something good, you're going to run into situations that you just got to choose to ignore. Spurgeon, in that session, that lecture, quoted Solomon, book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 21. One translation says it like this: don't eavesdrop on others. You may hear them curse you. Oh, my. It reminded me, I don't know why it reminded me of this. It reminded me of the party lines. Those rural communities. My grandparents lived in East Texas. They had a party line, and they'd listen for whatever combination of long and short rings that was their number. And my grandmother was fond of answering it, whether it was her number or not. And you had to beware. Everybody was listening in. Well, there's a lot of party lines going on right now. A lot of people on social media. It's chatter. Spurgeon goes on to say just how destructive chatter can be. Chatter is a hill not worth dying on, folks. People listen in, people hear what others are saying, people overhear comments, people interpret that that's comments directed toward me. And over time, we grow way too interested in other people's opinions, and we get too preoccupied with how others view us. And isn't that sort of a pride, an excessive concern about the opinion of others? Yes. But Pastor, they said on social media, and I know they were taking a pot shot at me, so I just went online and I made a post of my own. That'll do. Folks, this is not a hill to die on. Chatter. There's a lot of voices out there. Not worth dying on whatsoever. Yes. But Pastor, they were talking in a group, and when I walked in, they all turned and looked at me, and one of them laughed. And so I stormed at them and gave them a piece of my mind. You know what? I struggle each morning just keeping my mind intact. I really don't have time to give others a piece of my mind. I want a little left over by the time the day is over. Oh, can I get a witness to that? Mark, Michael, Claudia. Yeah, it's not a hill to die on. Chatter. Here's another hill that we shouldn't choose to die on: criticism. It's a little harder for us. I mean, chatter is chatter, but criticism we take very personally. We want to fight on that hill. Well, someone said something bad about me. I've got that. I screenshot it. I've got it. Got it. Yes. Criticism can take extreme forms. It can become slanderous, where they're just spreading outright lies about you. And if you haven't had that happen to you, then you're not alive. Yeah. Yeah, you need to check your pulse. I I usually have a framed piece of it somewhere. It rotates up as a screensaver. It's called Desiderata, and it begins with these words: Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence, as far as possible, without surrender. Be on good terms with all persons. And remember what peace there may be in silence. Wow. People will criticize you fairly, unfairly. People will hold you to a higher standard, a far higher standard than they live themselves. People will accuse you of what they're guilty of and project on you their own faults and their own failures. People will suddenly become omniscient. A lot of omniscient people out there. They'll begin to make accusations against you that begin with these words: you just think, you just think, you just know, you just. Well, in reality, they don't know what you're thinking. Phooey, we rarely know what we're thinking. And if they did know what we're thinking, they'd be God. But that's usually the way it is with criticism when you sit in the seat of the scornful. You step into the role of judge, jury, executioner, and become an accuser of the brethren. It's the wrong team, folks. Chatter. Chatter, one hill I'm not going to die on. Criticism is another hill I'm not going to die on. You're going to be criticized by a friend or a loved one. Listen to that. Faithful to the wounds of a friend. You're going to be criticized by an enemy. Don't discount it immediately. Maybe there's a kernel of truth there. Take it to the Lord in prayer and accept it. Accept that part. Own up to whatever we need to own up for. But more times than not, you're going to get this. You're going to learn this. And if you hadn't learned it, learn it quickly. Critics don't count. Don't listen to them. Nehemiah was on the wall building. He wouldn't come down to parley with the Sanballats and Tobias and the group from the plains of, oh no, that's appropriately named. He just kept busy doing a great work. But let me finish that passage in Solomon. So don't eavesdrop on others. You may hear them curse you. But the next verse says this: for you know how often you yourself have cursed others. Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, that's rough, Solomon. That is rough. You see, I'm far less concerned with what others criticize me for. I want to make sure I don't unjustly accuse other people. I can't control what others say or think, but I really, really, really try to tame what I think and what I say. And remember what Desiderata said. Remember what peace there may be in silence. Not going to die on the hill of chatter. Not going to die on the hill of criticism. Number 3, I'm not going to die on the hill of lost causes. Yeah, I know. I know we're like young David. We look out on the valley below and we see some offending situation and we ask, is there not a cause? And we get out there and we want to fight, but we better always be sure that the cause in which we're fighting is the one the Lord wants us fighting. We shouldn't avoid difficult conversations. We need to speak truth in love in God's time and God's way. That's discretion and wisdom. But there's a lot of lost causes out there. There's a lot of hills that you don't need to die on. What's a lost cause? Something that's bound to fail, something that's not productive to the kingdom. Paul said in Titus 3, here's some lost causes for you. Avoid foolish questions, genealogies, contentions, strivings about the law. They are unprofitable. They are vain. They are simply lost causes. Now, I struggle with this one. I really do. I really do. I don't want to believe that people can't and won't change. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to believe that there are situations that can't change. But sometimes that's the case, or it may not be time yet for it to change. There may not have been enough grace and revelation to change. I don't want to die on the hill of lost causes. I mentioned Hamburger Hill a moment ago. That hill that sparked so much slaughter, so much outcry in Vietnam. It was called Hill 937. That means there's a lot of hills out there. It's a 10-day battle. 100 Americans killed, more than 400 wounded, a 70% casualty rate. And then the hill was abandoned. And it became the metaphor for the battle halfway around the world, that the losses seemed senseless. Why are you going to give up so much to gain a hill that you're going to abandon? The conversations provoked by that conflict led to the beginning of the end of America's involvement in the Vietnam conflict. I'm no military genius. I don't know. I appreciate our military. But in daily life, this is what I'm talking about. I wonder if there's not a lot of casualties. I wonder if we're not engaged in a lot of lost causes. Yeah. It's one of those funny quirks of history. I mentioned one of them to you before. Phillips Brooks. It's a quirk in history. He should be known for something else, but he's known for something so different. He should be known for all of his writings, all of his sermons, all of the efforts he did, the universities. But Brooks is known today for authoring a song, O Little Town of Bethlehem. It was the same with Reinhold Niebuhr. He wrote extensively between the First and the Second World War. He inspired such people as Martin Luther King Jr. His theological writings and lectures are immense and are still studied today, but he's more known for authoring a prayer, the Serenity Prayer, repeated in each and every AA meeting. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. I got to know the difference between something I can change and can't change. I can't get lost on the hill of lost causes. Are we doing okay out there right now? We doing all right? Don, Catherine, are we doing good? William? One more. Chatter, criticism, lost causes. And then the one that flows out of the last, lost causes. Someone else's fight. That's the fourth hill not worth dying on. Someone else's fight. Yeah? Is it not a cause? We're racing out into the valley below. But you remember what? What David said, I come to you in the name of the Lord. That there was a recognition with David that it was not his battle. It was the Lord's battle. He was just an instrument in the midst of that battle. I can't spend my life fighting someone else's fight. You've heard that expression, don't run from a fight. Well, wisdom and discretion will modify and would say it like this: don't run from your fight. Don't take up another person's offense, another person's cause, another person's struggle or fight. Yes. Solomon in Proverbs 26:17, again, it's Solomon. It's better to take hold of a mad dog by the ears than to take part in someone else's argument. Ouch. It's a deal, folks. It's a real deal. The people like to get involved in each other's fights. Someone else is offended, and then you've got to get offended because someone you know is offended, and we choose sides. And when we should choose the middle ground, blessed the peacemakers. Your friends' conflicts are not your conflicts. We've so wrapped and warped the definition of friendship into this that if my friend's against it, I got to be against it. If my friend doesn't like that person, I can't like that person. Do you know some of my greatest friends absolutely love and cherish things I can't stand and people that I'm sort of so about? Who said we all had to be alike? Don't take up arms to fight someone else's battle. Now, you may be in a situation where you have to fight. Some of the greatest setbacks I've seen in my life is when I waded onto someone else's battlefield. God gives us the grace to fight our own battles. God gives us the wisdom to say, Lord, I recognize you put me in this battle. It really doesn't belong to me. It belongs to you. Yeah. Don't fall for the, well, if you really were my friend, you'd jump off this cliff with me. That's not a hill to die on. It's not. But there is a hill worth dying on. Oh, yes, there is. Jesus looked at Golgotha and said, that's a hill worth dying on. For God so loved the world. We decided long ago, and there's a lot of people married to this same notion. We've decided that others, that's a hill worth dying on. It's a single word answer. Is there a hill worth dying on? Greater love hath no man than this, that a man would lay down his life for his friend, to save a friend, to save a loved one, to save someone in mortal peril. It's a hill worth dying on. And that's a hill that awaits so many of us. And so rather than choosing the lesser hills and the foothills and getting lost in the molehills of this life, why not focus on the one worth dying on? This weekend, going into this weekend, Monica, David, Glenn, I believe you're going to find some others that need a blessing, need a word of encouragement, need a healing in their lives. Focus on them. Focus on them. Others, that's a hill worth dying on. Not chatter, not criticism, not lost causes, not someone else's fight, but stand in the midst of that hill of sacrifice where you give yourself for others and watch God bless you. What a great week. So enjoyed being with you this week. Thank you, Eddie, Yolanda. Thank you for being a part of this. Share this with others. Like the page, follow the page, subscribe to the page. And let's go have a wonderful day and a great weekend. God bless you. May the Lord be with you in the days ahead.
Thank you for listening to Morning Devotion with Ken Gurley. Join us next time for another inspiring devotion. To support this ministry, please visit firstchurch.com/give.